Welcome
Episode
to
2
Caleb
comes some
Can't
other day.
Read.
You know, fuck yourself. I hate it when
I'm
you do
Caleb
that shit.
Terrence.
I'm Jordan Rabel.
Okay, yo. No,
Hey, you know what?
It's been over a month.
I know. And here, I actually had this prepared. Hey, I know that we have done like an entire little side episode before and shit where we have told people what our schedules are going to be, blah, 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 and it never works out. And you know what? I thought about this. We're not posting like a calendar onto the website. We're not tweeting it, especially because I fucking stopped doing that. But just check the weather in the Pacific Northwest. If it seems bad, Caleb won't be here. Because for those of you that don't know, Caleb is a gardener, and when shit goes downhill, weather-wise, he is on the front lines primming those roses.
I gotta make sure that everybody's grass is like stays in good condition. That's a big investment for a lot of people. Their lawns, man. Like that. Like no, seriously. If there is a single little limb out of place in something, and somebody's HOA cracks down on them, I say that's an emergency.
Honestly, come to think of it, you do have to deal with the lawn quite a bit because even though your real job as an arborist is up in the fucking tree trying to make sure that people's lives aren't in danger, they're always like, "Well, don't fuck up my grass." And it's like, wow, yeah, that is actually like 90% of your job is making sure that the grass is clean.
See, that's actually one thing that makes me a bit problematic to be hired.
Is that you don't give any regard.
Fuck about that grass.
Fuck lawns.
But okay, did we upload the last episode of this?
Yeah.
Oh, so we're already committed to having to do part 2.
Yeah. I know that you did your due diligence and you listened to it this morning and made sure. No, it's okay. We're going to go over a little recap for you and everyone. So, God, I hope whoever is listening to this in the future who didn't have to wait week by week by week, good on you. But
I feel like this, if we were going to have this much of a gap in between a part 1 and 2, this is a pretty good author. I don't think anybody was really,
I will. I think I'll give people that advice. We're not really paying attention to our numbers or anything that much. We don't really care. We're just doing this for fun. But if you see part 1...
Jordan totally cares about the numbers quite a bit, actually. It's really silly. It's really sad.
No, that's a lie. Shut up.
You
Fuck you.
flexing like you don't fucking watch it.
No, hey, look. I mean, so we got 36 listeners. That's pretty good. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a hell of a lot better than 0. But that bar it doesn't exist.
Hey, if you want to do this, we have more listeners than your old band.
I mean... Yeah. Hey, wait. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, I know. So
Fucker.
Anyway, look, if you see part something,
no one's old band is good. Fuck off.
If you see part 1 in the title, you might as well skip listening to it. It's not going to hurt our wallets or anything. It's fine. Just wait until part 2 comes out, and I will let you know there is a part 3 coming out for an author in the future. The next time that you see part 1, that's going to be a 3-part episode. But that's a few authors ahead yet, so don't worry about it.
If anyone was bothered by the gap here, I'm sorry.
You can't be bothered by the gap. You got to embrace the gap.
Things got a little hectic here. In the PNW for a little bit.
If anybody on the fucking East Coast didn't hear about it, shit was real bad out here. It was fucking bad. It wasn't bad to people in their homes. They were like, "Oh, an ice storm." But to people like you were like, yeah, so anyway, there's second generation growth that was super weak, but it grew super tall and it basically made it explode like shrapnel and it just destroyed entire forests. And I've almost died.
Do you want me to do this?
No, please don't. You've done it to me every day for like 2 weeks. All right, well, let's get started.
We're not supposed to get wind like that here. It's not supposed to fucking happen. It's not. It doesn't. It's bad, not supposed to happen, and it was fucked, and it was really, really scary. And I was spending just all of my time in a shitty workplace. You know how exhausting it is to gaslight yourself into not being a coward.
I wonder why they didn't just man up and call it a hurricane. Because that's basically what it was for you.
It was pretty much like a freezing tropical storm.
Yeah. It was like, oh, El Nino does exist. This is what it is.
Dude, just like fucking just trains of Asplin trucks like sliding down hills and shit.
I saw all the videos, dude. I saw the fire truck that fucking yeeted itself off a fucking cliff. That was cool as shit.
Oh, fuck.
So anyway, let's get started, shall we? We might as well. Now listen, from where we last left off, Percy Bysshe Shelley was raised in a very affluent family. And honestly, you didn't stopped me
Did
the
you
last
say,
time
did you
episode.
Say, did you put the emphasis on the Bysshe?
Yeah, it's
The
Bysshe.
same way?
And the last time you never caught it once. But either way,
Sorry.
he's born to a very affluent family.
Dropping the ball.
However, like what happens to some kids randomly, he was branded a dork at school and bullied so bad it caused him to lose sleep, which in turn led to frequent hallucinations, something which plagued him his entire life. This, along with his love of gunpowder and the occult, led to his nickname Mad Shelley, which bothered him to no end.
So he's kind of like Lovecraft, but without the.
He was like an angrier Lovecraft.
I'm
Well, okay, maybe not
angry about some
but
different things.
I wouldn't say outspoken. Oh, fuck. Violent. I guess violent.
Explosive Lovecraft.
An explosive Lovecraft.
But
Very
with,
dangerous.
without the. So far.
So far.
I mean, with when he lived, I mean, we can be sure he was racist, but at least he wasn't.
Oh, yeah, for sure, 100%.
At least he wasn't, naming his pets. Well, we're not going there. But
if only there was a way I could hate the Portuguese even more. What's a word? But from the time he was about...
How do I make my racism the same amount of inappropriate but casual?
Why did you bring home 3 hamsters? Because I thought of 3 beautiful slurs today. But from the time he was about 17, Percy found a love for all forms of writing. He'd actually published a couple novels at this point, and at least one poetry collection with his sister. And while none of them led to success, Percy was beginning to be known not as a poet, but an edgelord. He was kicked out of Oxford University within the first 6 months of his being there for sending out copies of a pamphlet he called The Necessity of Atheism, and he openly practiced the concept of free love, much to the detriment of his wife Harriet, and also his girlfriend Mary. Maybe even Mary's sister Claire, who he was also banging. But no matter where Percy went, he's always been on the run from debtors, and in the year 1816, Percy Bysshe Shelley is 23 years old and thinking of starting a new life in mainland Europe. However, Claire one day comes to the door requesting her sister and Percy go with her to Lake Geneva in Switzerland, where she's to meet with her lover, Lord Byron. Now, when Percy, Mary, their infant son William, and Mary's sister Claire showed up to the Villa Diodati on Lake Geneva in the summer of 1816, they found the house empty. But that didn't stop them from breaking in. Though to Mary and Percy, it wasn't too weird, because Claire kept insisting that Lord Byron was totally expecting them and he'd show up any day now. Well, he did, 10 days later, and the crew greeted him, much to the surprise of Lord Byron. He was not expecting to see Claire ever again. Not since he banged her in England 5 months ago. But Claire was, of course, pregnant with his child, and she was there to make him own up to it.
Let me get these squatters out of this fucker, and oh my god!
Just really a nightmare. No, we went over...
Go get a paternity test. What's that? Never mind. Get out.
No, we went over the summer the kids spent at Lake Diodati in fine detail back on our episodes on Mary Shelley.
Of course, we all remember it.
Well, I'm not going to go over them again, but I will mention some parts pertaining specifically to Percy. Like his weird obsession with ghost stories, leading to a contest between all those present to write ghost stories of their very own. And Percy's love of galvanism, that thing where you shock a frog till it kicks, leading to an idea Mary would later develop into Frankenstein.
Amazing scientific discovery that if you run an electric current through something, it twitches.
Dude, okay, I'll be honest though, he was super into it. His early mentor in like high school was the dude who basically, it's so weird to say invented galvanism or discovered galvanism, because yeah, you're just shocking dead shit and you're like, oh whoa, it did something this time. Like I don't know, it's weird.
Okay, I mean, I get how it's like, oh wow, that's kind of neat, but I mean, it's kind of like, what did you put it through?
I know, I don't know, but
like, you put it into a living body, it makes people do funny things. You put it into a dead one, and it'll fucking twitch around a little bit.
No,
like,
early science is a period of about 10,000 years. This is still early science, but we're getting to the end of it. You're picking these up one by one. Just, I feel like you're racking like.
Once again, this is not like there's no video here, so people can't tell when you go.
No,
off
I'm just talking
like
to you
that.
man to man.
Okay,
boy to boy. We got a bunch of the simply spiked.
And
you know what?
They're wonderful.
Yeah, we're not gonna go through them like we did with the Mountain Dews, because the Mountain Dews was something to complain about. Honestly, I'm having the blueberry right now. I'm delighted. This feels wonderful.
Yeah, we're not going to have a review set up for this. Just
but it's
simply,
good.
Simply Spiked Lemonade pass well.
Yeah, but you know, the way that you're stacking up flavor by flavor, I'm seeing you organize them in the way that I know you're going to drink them too. And you're just like, I guess.
I heard blueberry was the worst. So that's
I'm drinking it right now and it's good. But it might be the worst too. I don't know. And they're all just really fucking good.
Give me a little sippy.
All right, yeah.
Thanks, man.
What have you got?
The just lemonade.
The regular?
The simplest of the simplies.
And let me tell you, you ain't going to get much simpler. It's good. It's got a little sour, but it's
kind of like a Sour Patch Kid, which I enjoy.
Nah, because they did the Sour Patch like monsters or something, and they were fucking horrible. But
also,
anyway.
5% for something like this, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I picked up what was it? It was a Modelo, like big pina colada thing, and I was looking at it. I'm like, 3.5? Are you fucking kidding me? And just put that shit back so hard.
I have to get through all of this material.
Yeah.
For what just one Especial would do.
Yeah, honestly. And for cheaper. Yeah. Anyway. Well, throughout Mary Shelley's story, there are characters that quote Percy's poems and a scene inspired by one of his earliest works, Zastrozzi. Frankenstein was also vegetarian, something Percy also was. And I will reiterate it here, that because there were influences from Percy in Frankenstein, some question whether Mary Shelley really wrote this story at all. She did.
Yeah, Isn't there way more of a record of her being a successful writer than
people have always hated women, you know? They're just like, well, it is good, so I'd rather he did it.
Look, and I understand. But
I mean, hey, Papa Peterson, I understand, you know?
So wait, I seem to remember at the last episode, like, kind of wondering why the fuck we were going over this guy. In this episode, are we actually going to go over some stuff he wrote?
Yes, and I will mention that later, but everything up until this point, there's not really a reason to mention it. You can read it. It's not very good. So he isn't known as a poet quite yet. Okay. But, though, I will say, though, Mary did hand over her manuscript to Frankenstein for Percy to edit, where he basically made some parts way more long-winded than they needed to be because he thought it sounded smarter. There were actually a bunch more edits he wanted to make later on, but he never got around to it because he's fucking lazy. Anyway, while the whole time spent at the Villa Diodati was more awkward than anything, Lord Byron and Percy Shelley found in each other new best friends because they were both terrible, old money fuckboys who were horrible to women. So they got along fucking great. They even had this amazing paddle boat date around the lake, which would be the inspiration to a poem of Percy's called Hymn to Intellectual Beauty. And by the way, any of these excerpts to poems, the poems are pages long. These are always just going to be excerpts, not the whole thing. Quote, "The awful shadow of some unseen power floats, though unseen among us, visiting this various world with as inconstant wing as summer winds that creep from flower to flower, like moonbeams that behind some piney mountain shower, it visits with inconstant glance each human heart and countenance, like hues and harmonies of evening, like clouds and starlight widely spread, like memory of music fled, like aught that for its grace may be, dear, and yet dearer for its mystery." It's not bad. Yeah, Percy Bysshe Shelley, he's actually a very good poet, though his subject matter is attuned to that
was
of...
inspired by a date with a man?
Yeah, his subject matter is always attuned to that of a 15-year-old.
All right, I'm not dogging on him, but, I mean, like...
Yeah.
Was he, you know...
No.
No?
I mean, he was super into free... You know what? Good question.
Maybe he's...
Oh, no! I'm not cutting that out. But you know what? Good question. We're going to hold on that for now.
Yeah, just sometimes we just leave little reminders that this is not a sleepy time podcast.
Wake up! Well, throughout the poem, Percy once again looks towards the supernatural to attain higher learning, and feels that maybe notions such as good, evil, ugliness, and beauty can all be things personified and learned from. And I know this is the first time in 2 episodes that we're actually giving examples of Percy's work, but that's because before this, it is largely mediocre, as I said before. As soon as he wrote this poem, though, he sent it to a friend named Leigh Hunt, who loved it, and then immediately fucking lost it. So Percy wrote it a second time, which is the version we know today, which kind of sucks, because I read this poem and really liked it, but there's nothing quite like getting a spark of creativity and jotting it down, only for your file not to save. So you only end up recreating what you think was there, and it doesn't quite have that same spark. Either way, Hymn to Intellectual Beauty would be published in his friend Leigh Hunt's magazine Examiner in January the next year. And this magazine was actually not a bad place to publish, as Percy, as well as Mary and Lord Byron, often did. It was a culture magazine, not only dealing with the news, but of course, art and poetry. Now, while Percy Shelley was known before he started publishing in the Examiner, his most well-known story at this point was Alistair, which nobody liked. That was one, we kind of discussed it last episode. It was about this guy called the Poet, searching for knowledge in the shape of a woman. Yeah. However, it was while Percy starts publishing in his friend's magazine that he begins to gain a small cult following. Now, we again mentioned this in our Mary Shelley episodes, but during the time that the kids were in Switzerland, the world was undergoing what was regarded as a little ice age due to the eruption of some volcano, lowering temperatures around the world. And while everyone else at the lake was miserable, Percy was out on walks, rowing boats, just having a fucking grand old time. And there were several famous viewpoints and houses along Lake Geneva that had, like, these guest books. Like, you ever rent a cabin or some shit with your parents, and, like, there was, like, guest books where you're supposed to write in there, like, we had a great time, the Robinsons.
Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
Shit like
no,
that.
I've seen pages torn out before where I'm like, oh, this is when somebody was trying to be funny.
Somebody drew a big old boner.
Well, Percy would visit, like, all of these places, and he would sign in these guest books, Percy Shelley, atheist, in all capital letters, atheist.
I'm so glad I didn't find out about this guy when I was 15. Oh, man.
Believe it or not, there were prominent writers from England in the following months that just so happened to visit these same areas, whether they were on vacation or on tour, and they would read through these guest books. And when they saw this big signature on these pages declaring Percy Shelley as a proud atheist, they all went home and told everybody about Percy being this fucking edgelord asshole, and his reputation somehow sank even lower. I mean, he did it to himself. People do that today. No, my Vittora is cool. Okay, if you say so, you know. So the Switzerland trip ends with Claire getting upset enough at Lord Byron over his non-committal to her unborn baby, and the kids leave to go back to England in August of 1816, with Mary yet again pregnant. Now the thing is, Mary and Claire have another sister, one that wasn't the result of either of the parents she was stuck at home living with. Fanny Imlay was the result of her mother Mary Wollstonecraft and her boyfriend at the time, Gilbert Imlay. Mary Wollstonecraft brought her into her marriage with William Godwin, and when Mary Wollstonecraft passed away and William remarried, it put Fanny in the household of two people that kind of alienated her. Now, at the very least, William Godwin did love Fanny as if she were his own, but his struggling business and debts kept him away from ever really paying attention to her, and Fanny's stepmom was never shy about letting her and Mary know just how she felt about anyone other than her own daughter, Claire. So while Claire, Mary, and Percy were whiling away their days in the town of Bath, knowing they'd get chewed out if Mary showed up pregnant yet again, the 22-year-old Fanny Imlay sent Mary a letter asking to join them, and Percy said no. Now, this may seem strange, as Percy has always wanted more and more women living with him under one roof, but Percy was adamant that she stay away, because he knew the Godwin household couldn't run without Fanny, and he didn't want the news of Mary's pregnancy to make it back to her father, or Percy's wife. Remember, he is married.
They're still borrowing money.
From everyone. That's why they left in the first place, so that they don't have to repay it. Which is brilliant,
Genius,
honestly.
Dude, back in the day, dude. Oh my god.
Tobacco and weed just grew in the fucking wild in the cracks of the
shit,
cement.
I didn't pack my social security card. What is that? Never mind.
It doesn't really matter. I can buy a house for a fucking quarter.
Actually, I'm just going to build one here and
Who's landed this? I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I guess me neither.
What are they going to do? I mean, they got cannons and shit. Yeah, roll one up that hill. I fucking dare you.
Having a gun actually means something. On October 9th. Oh, fuck, man. I forgot. Yeah.
What do we got?
Let's laugh about this real quick because we're about to go into some really deep territory.
Oh.
On October 9th, 1816.
All right, hang on. Let me lock in because I'm not going to lie to you, man. I have, I've been on.
You've had a rough couple of.
I've had a rough little bit, and then I got a very, very minor injury. And I've taken this time to not be on my ADD medication. So
that's good.
You've been going through this, and all I've been thinking about is the feeling of this can and the fact that I would very much like to split a fried chicken with you later. So let me lock in if we're getting serious real quick. Just give me like a...
We've actually got like a family meeting tonight where they're ordering a whole bunch of pizza, and you're welcome to crash it.
What kind of pizza?
I don't know. But, I mean, it's going to be good. It's pizza.
I mean, I know it kind of depends.
It's not Pizza Hut. I mean,
what is it?
It's probably going to be Domino's.
If I didn't care, I wouldn't have asked.
Oh, no,
her.
They're getting some place from, like, it's going to be some really good place up in Northeast, I think. But I don't know where it is. No, I'm not kidding.
Okay.
That's what they told me. I'm not going to fuck with your feelings about pizza. Look at me.
All right.
You think I joke about this?
I don't think you care what goes into your body, motherfucker. As a matter of fact.
Shut up and open me another simply.
All right. Just give me a...
All right.
All right, let's go. Let's do this. I'm paying attention.
On October 9th, 1816.
But I want to get bigs.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, maybe later tonight. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Mary would receive her final letter from Fanny, making it obvious that she was planning to end her own life. I told you.
Oh, okay.
Percy saw the return address and made his way to the town of Swansea. Unfortunately, he was too late, as Fanny Emily had committed suicide via laudanum overdose at just the age of 22 the night before. Opium. Her father, William Godwin, actually got a letter as well and made it to Swansea the same day, and the awkward confrontation between him and Percy can only be speculated. But Percy still made certain arrangements for Fanny's death. First, he tore her signature off the bottom of her suicide note so no newspaper or police would know it was her, basically making her an unknown suicide. As such, Fanny's death was reported separately from the dead girl they found in the hotel in Swansea, attempting to save what little family name Godwin had left, which also meant that Fanny's body was left unclaimed and buried in an unmarked grave. I think I looked this up and they don't know where she's buried still, I think. But as grateful as Godwin was to Percy for what he'd done, which is honestly kind of a shitty thing to do anyway, if someone asked Godwin where Fanny was... Oh, God. Thanks for warning me.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
If someone asked Godwin where Fanny was, he'd say she was teaching in Ireland. If they happened to have read about her death in the paper...
She's teaching in Ireland. Why did you say it?
She has to be around all the fucking Irish. But if somebody happened to have seen, read about her death in the newspaper, he'd say, oh, it was from a fever. And if someone confronted him with accusations that it was indeed suicide, he said it was all the fault of Percy Shelley. Godwin always believed her death was over an affair between her and Percy. And although those views are unfounded, they are justified. I mean, Percy fucking sucks. Just a couple months later, on December 12th, 1816, this article would appear in the London Times.
So wait, was Fanny the one who didn't want to come live with him?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was like, oh, well, maybe if she had somebody to look over her, maybe this would have never happened.
Oh, God, the consequences of your actions, Percy. Oh, no.
Oh, he's not going to admit to that. Just as this one, too. Just a couple months later, on December 12th, 1816, this article would appear in the London Times. Quote, on Tuesday, a respectable female, far advanced in pregnancy, was taken out of the Serpentine River and brought to her residence in Queen Street, Brompton, having been missed for nearly 6 weeks. She had a valuable ring on her finger. A want of honor in her own conduct is supposed to have led to this fatal catastrophe, her husband being abroad. The woman they pulled from the river was Harriet Shelley, who drowned herself in a lake in London while pregnant with Percy's third child, at least through their marriage. Her suicide letter is addressed to her sister, but halfway through, she addresses Percy as if she hoped he would hear of her death with some remorse. Quote, "May all happiness attend ye both is the last wish of her who loved ye more than all others. My children, I dare not trust myself there. They are too young to regret me, and ye will be kind to them for their own sakes more than for mine. My parents do not regret me. I was unworthy your love and care. Be happy, all of you. So shall my spirit find rest and forgiveness. God bless you all," is the last prayer of the unfortunate Harriet S. Just 2 months after Harriet's death, Percy wrote to Lord Byron saying that he felt, quote, "a far severer anguish over the death of Mary's sister Fanny, someone he barely knew, than he did his own wife and unborn child." Just in case you were thinking, maybe he's okay.
No, not for a second, Jordan.
Good. I just want to make it clear. In her letter, Harriet had asked Percy to take their son Charles, but leave their daughter Ianthe with her sister. However, Percy wanted them both, and his parents didn't want him to have either of the children. So Percy Shelley took his parents to court for a second time. You'll remember he did it once before when they tried withholding his inheritance from him. Well, his lawyer told him...
Well, it'd be just fine to take care of these fucking kids if you gave me more fucking money.
The trickle-down defense. Well, his lawyer told him a surefire way of getting custody and looking good in the eyes of the judges is to be a married man. So although he was, again, opposed to marriage, the 24-year-old Percy Shelley married the 19-year-old Mary Godwin just 18 days after his wife's death. Didn't work. The judges did the bare minimum.
No, it doesn't work if you do it that quick. No.
Yeah, the judges looked at like more than just the bare minimum of looking beyond this guy being married and said, "Wow, hey, you married your mistress less than 3 weeks after your wife's suicide, huh?" So both children were given away to a foster family. Didn't even go to his fucking parents.
I mean, that's the worst thing that could have happened.
I don't know. Only if they went to another rich family, then it's like, all right, cool, you know.
Yeah.
Did you open this for me?
No, I just.
You're abandoning it.
I didn't want the watermelon one, man. It's too sweet
that's
for
fine.
me.
That's fine. I'm okay with it.
Right.
And it wasn't long before the marriage between Percy and Mary became strained, as Percy was constantly giving money away to poor people, her father William Godwin being one of them. Yet on September 2nd, 1817, Clara Everina Shelley was born. And immediately after, Percy said, "My work as a husband and father is done," and left on a vacation to London with Claire.
No. It begins now.
No. See, he did. No. The kid's born. He's fine. So he left on vacation with Mary's fucking sister.
What did you do the whole before time? What do you mean?
He was leaving Mary with their newborn child, which pissed Mary off tremendously. However,
God, he sucks.
So anyway, I'm fucking off with her sister.
He just writes 2 poems a year and is just generally a piece of shit. Like,
and he's well known. He's more famous than either of us. God, should I just act like this to become famous? Is that what it is? Does it have to precede your fame?
No. If you act like this but you're not famous, you go to jail.
Oh, actually.
Or if you don't have money.
Actually, it wasn't long before Mary got a knock on her door from a couple of lawyers who let her know her husband had been found and arrested for outstanding debts, though he was only in jail for a couple of days. Again, it was the before times. Yeah, you owe a bunch of money, but you didn't throw a rock at a homeless person, I guess, so it's fine.
I thought they had debtors' prisons and stuff. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. I would have to imagine.
And then you had to back then you had to pay your dues in debtor's prison by going out on the streets and throwing rocks at homeless people.
Yeah. God, I gotta clock in another fucking 10-hour day. They say I got 4. It was either 8 5s or 4 10s, and I'm like, I guess if I got a third week and I'm not having to throw rocks at homeless people, I guess I'm doing
fucking Makita microwave full of fucking honey buns. Let's fucking go.
No, you're right, though. I imagine he probably wrote his parents, and it was one of the many times that they just let him off the fucking hook, and were like, well, he's not going to survive in there, and fucking took him out. But 1817... He
hasn't worked a day in his fucking life.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
In manual labor or the gym. I would probably do the same
thing. I'd look at my son, too, and just be like, I ain't living. I got to get him the fuck out of there. But 1817 was overall still a productive year for Percy, as he not only published a couple more political pamphlets no one asked for, but he also produced some of his more well-known works, one of which was originally called Leon and Cynthia, or The Revolution of the Golden City, a vision of the 19th century. But the original story was soaking in incest, and true to Percy's form, it attacked religion, so the publisher refused to produce it. But Shelley really liked the prose, so instead of trying to be edgy, he rewrote the story without all the incest and atheism, retitling it The Revolt of Islam. Oh. We're not gonna go into it. But it is again very much a.
That's cool, man. I wasn't comfortable going into that one.
It is very much a story about spiritual exploration, but the poem was a hit, and Percy's reputation as a poet began to grow into the mainstream. Yet his more important work wouldn't be written until December of that year. Now, Leigh Hunt, the editor and publisher of the magazine Examiner, was a friend to Percy Shelley as well as a man named Horace Smith, a stockbroker. So, of course, Percy instantly glommed onto him. Though as far as I could tell, Horace never actually lent Percy any money, but he did help him balance his checkbooks, which got him out of a few hairy situations anyway. Well, sometimes Horace and Percy would have a friendly little poetry battle about the same subject to see whose poem was objectively better. Now, earlier that year, the British Museum had acquired the top half of a statue of Ramses II from Cairo. It was this big statue that Napoleon had actually wanted for himself years before, but he was unsuccessful at pulling the whole thing out of the ground. The British Museum, though, just said, cut the fucking thing in half. So they did.
Of course they fucking did.
Removed the top half of this beautiful statue, and the bottom half...
This country has no history. We've moved it over here.
The bottom half still sits in its original place today. You can actually see it, and I believe that there is actually a plaque there that's like, so anyway, the British Museum is kind of fucking bad.
British Museum, super shitty.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Now, Percy never actually saw the thing. He just saw a placard next to a blank space at the museum that said what was supposed to be there, but it wouldn't actually arrive until a few years later. Regardless, Percy was inspired by this random statue he'd never even fucking seen, and both Horace and Percy were interested to find out more about it. Coincidentally, they found a reference to Ramses II in an ancient book of history called the Bibliotheca Historica. There, they found the pharaoh called by his Greek name, Ozymandias, as well as the inscription that once resided at the base of the statue, which read, quote, "King of kings, Ozymandias am I. If any want to know how great I am and where I lie, let him outdo me in my work." With this, Shelley would produce one of his most famous poems, Ozymandias, in Leigh Hunt's Examiner in January of 1818. He printed it under the name Glarastes. Glarastes.
You want to let me get a spin on it? Like
Glarastes.
No, let me see it, man. Come on.
Hang on.
Fucking
Glarastes.
Glarastes.
Yep, good job. You did it. You speak Greek. God damn, you're a natural.
Glarastes?
It's Glarastes.
Glarastes.
No, Glarastes.
Fuck, eat shit. All right, hang on. Glarastes.
Oh, there. Hey, that was, you know what? That was very good.
Fuck yeah,
all right.
dude.
It's Greek for lover of dormice, as Dormouse was his pet name for Mary Shelley. Isn't that cute? You look so mad.
I don't know, man. I just
everything about this guy.
Everything about this guy and pet names fucking bug me a lot.
Oh yeah, what's yours? What, you got one?
No, they just bother me. I don't think that's a for public thing.
Nicole and I just sigh at each other. Is that a term of endearment?
Yeah, you don't tend to speak. Yeah, just is your pet name just hey?
I mean, if I forget her name sometimes, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so here's the poem. It's in its entirety. Quote, "I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command Tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hands that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal, these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on me works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. The poem is about the collapse of all things, that no matter how high and mighty you may think of yourself, there will always be death, and eventually all history is forgotten. I mean, in the poem itself, it's about just this statue, kind of like just these legs. The top half doesn't even rest there, and it's just like, look on my works, ye mighty, in despair. And there's nothing there. It is today regarded as one of the greatest poems in the English language. Horace Smith's contribution to the contest was printed in the Examiner about a month later and is largely forgotten. I know I read it. I don't remember it. In March of 1818, Mary, Percy, their 2 kids, Claire and her child, all moved to Italy with the excuse of leaving England due to its tyranny, both civil and religious. In reality, Percy was having lung issues and was advised to move to warmer climates, and Claire wanted her daughter to see her father, Lord Byron, who was staying in Venice at the time. But even this was a 2-tiered excuse, as the Shelleys were hoping to run away from debtors and never return, and just hopefully they'd turn a new leaf somewhere else. Like, we're in Italy.
The new leaf is dead.
We're not going to ever borrow money again. Yeah. The group set up a base of operations in Tuscany, where Percy would then take Claire and her daughter to meet Lord Byron in Venice, a 200-mile journey. When they got there, Lord Byron asked if Mary and the kids would want to join them, because he didn't want to be left alone with Claire, something he made a rule at Lake Geneva as well. That was very much a thing for him. He was like, while they were in the Villa Diodati, he was like, okay, since you all broke into my house and you technically just can all overpower me, new rule, I'm not allowed to be alone with this woman, okay? She's not allowed to corner me anywhere. You guys need to be around. I need witnesses. So he did the same thing here. He was like, ask your wife and kids to come. You guys can cover more ground.
Why didn't you want to be around Claire again?
He fucking hates her. And she has his kid, and he's just like, I didn't want children. So Percy sent a letter along to Mary, who packed up the kids and made her way to Venice alone. Unfortunately, along the way, little 1-year-old Clara came down with an illness and died on September 24th, 1818. Mary soon grew cold to Percy as he himself slipped further into his illness and even a little suicidal. During this period, he wrote stanzas written in dejection near Naples, which reflect his depression. Quote, Alas, I have no hope nor health, nor peace within, nor calm around, nor that content surpassing wealth, the sage in meditation found, and walked with inward glory crowned, nor fame, nor power, nor love, nor
inward
leisure.
Glory, you say?
Others I see, whom these surround, smiling they live, and call life pleasure. To me that cup has been dealt in another measure. To pull them out of their slump, yeah?
What'd you call it? You called it a stanza?
Yeah.
What, like the car?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
The car was named after a thing called the stanza.
Oh.
Did you know that a rendezvous was also a thing before they made it into a car?
I didn't know it was a car.
I do, because I remember our dipshit fucking coworker trying to call it down when we were changing oil, and he was like,
Don't go off on one of these, man.
Rendevis? Rendevis. And I had to lean over, and I was like, Rendezvous. Dude, what? Anyway, to pull them out of their slump, Percy adopted a child. Maybe.
Wait.
Hang on, I want to drink before I do this. Mm-hmm. So, while they were in Naples, Percy registered the birth of a baby girl named Alina Adelaide Shelley. And we have no idea whose kid this was. Some say that Alina was either an illegitimate child of Percy's or that he just straight up bought a kid off a poor person. We don't really know. But it sure as hell wasn't Mary's, though she is listed as the mother on the birth certificate. It seems like Percy was trying to ease Mary's sadness for the loss of their own child by just getting her another kid. Like, don't be sad your dog is dead. Look, a puppy. Like, that's the same energy he was bringing to this.
That is exactly how
I know how
it is.
Yeah.
That is 100%.
And I didn't know this when we did our Mary Shelley episodes, but there's new evidence to suggest that the Shelleys didn't leave Naples the next year, as I previously thought. They left the next day, after the declaration of Alina's birth and baptism. And they left without her. Just gave her to some Italian couple, and they never came back to Naples.
They just ditched a kid?
I don't think it was theirs to begin with.
So, whoa. They adopted the kid.
He says, well, okay, so it's complex.
What happened?
So all that we know is they lost a kid on the way to illness. That kid was very much real. That kid died. It sucked. It was sad. All of a sudden, there's a record saying, hey, new child. There's no way that Mary was pregnant in this time span, though. Couldn't have happened. As soon as we registered this child, we dropped them off and fucking ran away. So something to me says this was a lot of Percy's going on before Mary was like, I am about to fucking kill you. We need to go. Like, this is some dark shit.
No, you cannot just adopt a kid to bring me to make me feel better. Drop this off somewhere.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's something to suggest.
That's fucked.
Percy knew just how fucked up this situation was. He not only lied on the birth certificate about the age of the parents, but also misspelled both their names intentionally, almost to suggest that if someone came looking for Alina, he could steer them in the wrong direction. Now, there are also documents showing that a poor woman had a child and gave it away to a midwife for her to find a new home around the same time the Shelleys were in Naples, and some have suggested that this is where the child came from. But let's be real, that shit happened all the time, and the chances that Alina was this one specific baby from this one surviving record from that time is pretty low. It kind of feels like Percy might have snatched a street urchin. Regardless, after the Shelleys left Naples, Alina stayed with the old Italian couple she was given to until she died the following year in 1820. Now, in between the time of Clara's death in September of 1818 and Alina's miracle appearance in late December of that year, Percy completed 3 major works: Julian and Medallo, which is a conversation between 2 men who are supposed to represent Byron and Shelley; The Cenci, a play about a noblewoman who killed her father in 1599; and Prometheus Unbound, a story in the stage play format,
That's a jump.
which was never intended to actually be on stage. There's the clouds then have to speak and the mountains have to speak and the seas have to speak and shit. They all have speaking parts, and it can be done today. But back then it was very metaphysical and couldn't be done. And that was kind of the point.
I don't know. I'm seeing this as like a kindergarten play, and one's dressed up as a cloud and one's dressed up as the ocean. I think it's very much doable, man.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
like just go to your local Sunday school.
You think Shakespeare didn't have this shit? Yeah, of course.
You're fine.
Now to start.
Fucking use your imagination, dick.
Yeah, really. Julian and Medallo is a completely masturbatory tale about the 2 men discussing the philosophies of life. And whereas Medallo, who's Lord Byron in this instance, is known as a nobleman, Julian, who's Shelley, is described with a sickening level of self-importance. He's, quote, an Englishman of good family, passionately attached to those philosophical notions which assert the power of man over his own mind. He is a complete infidel and a scoffer at all things reputed holy. Holy shit, shut the fuck up. But it is still a major work of his, so I'm mentioning it. It was boring to read. It's not good. I don't like it. Shelley's next work.
Jordan doesn't like anything.
I like some Percy Shelley.
Jordan doesn't like anything except Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's fine. And Dr. Seuss. Shelley's next work, The Cenci, is based on
That's fair.
Yeah. It's good. Got good cadence. The Cenci is based on the real-life trial and execution of Beatrice Cenci, who took part in the murder of her abusive father. Whole family had him drugged and beat him to death with hammers, which is pretty cool. Though when they were caught, a couple of Beatrice's brothers, instead of having...
Whoa, guys, you doing some kind of Caesar deal here? Not quite.
I mean, we're more going the Bing Crosby route.
Knives
with oranges.
are actually substantially more expensive than hammers, though. So,
yeah, really, a rock would do. But when Beatrice's brothers were caught, instead of having their heads cut off, they instead had their heads smashed in with mallets. Poetic justice, maybe? Or a good Gallagher show? I don't know. Anyway, Percy really
wanted... goofy, big, like, wooden ones you see in antique malls.
Cool. They fucking midsummered the shit out of these guys.
Oh, man, what did you guys hit with this stuff? This is wild.
So anyway, Percy really wanted this play to hit the stage, correctly saying that it would change things. Which, I mean, it would, but probably not for the better. So while the play never made it to the stage in his lifetime, it was published to rave reviews. Oscar Wilde, who usually only published reviews if they were snide, said, "In fact, no one has more clearly understood than Shelley the mission of the dramatist and the meaning of the drama." And while the subject matter was largely scandalous for the times, most people fucking loved it. And even though it would have never been allowed on stage, the Vatican still put out a notice saying it wasn't to ever be performed. And Prometheus Unbound is yet another play, a retelling of the tale of Prometheus, who delivers fire to man in defiance of the gods. But whereas in the original tale he is tortured and forgiven, in Shelley's play he is abandoned to his torment forever. However, when the play was published, the printing was so fucked up with errors and parts missing that it was almost as if it was a completely unfinished work. Percy saw this as an opportunity to rewrite the parts he never felt comfortable with, and the version we know today is the draft he worked on until his death. In June of 1819, Mary and Percy's 3-year-old son William would die of malaria while they stayed in Rome. The couple, whose marriage was already strained, grew even further apart, with both their mental states worsening. Mary wrote, quote, "We have now lived 5 years together, and if all the events of the 5 years were blotted out, I might be happy." That's a really succinct thing to say for the 1800s.
It's pretty fucking bad.
I know. She's had like 4 children die in the course of 5 years. Like,
it's been pretty
rough.
bad.
Yeah.
Percy kind of
I mean, he doesn't care. He's just like, darn it, you know? Not another one. Well, just go throw this in the back and just...
Dude, what a
Are babies compostable? Like...
What a fucking sociopath, dude. Just like... Just the fact that he thought just replacing it with a new one.
Yeah, no, I have to imagine... There's something.
Something,
you know?
It's not clicking.
Psychopathy, I don't know. Man, but he was a psycho. It's so weird to just have no humane feelings about that whatsoever. You're just immediately like, all right, fucking kid died. Here. What are you what? You know?
What are you crying? I'm so frustrated with you right now. I don't understand why you're mad about this. Like, please. Like,
yeah, no, when this kid dies, I mean, I'm sure, I mean, he did feel remorse. One kid dies and he writes a huge poem about how sad he is. And it's like, I feel it, you know? It sucks, but...
Like, hey, we already did this once. How bad could it be now?
It's a weird solution to have. And I'm always going to bring this up. Like, Percy Shelley fucking snatched a child. That's a weird as shit. And tried to make it okay. He was mad his wife said no, you know? Now, a couple months later, back in England, 60,000 people... Just as quietly as you can. Thank you. A couple months later, back in England, 60,000 people would gather at St. Peter's Field in Manchester. You see, after the Napoleonic Wars had concluded, only 11% of men were eligible to vote, as everyone else over the voting age was fucking dead.
Oh.
I think it's time to reform standing in lines and shooting. The people asked for a reformation, and the government responded by sending men on horseback to cut down the crowd. Only killing 18 people, but injuring over 400.
God, what are we going to do about this crowd? I don't know, boys. Looks like a big old line to me.
The lawn needs mowing.
Send out the 11%.
Fair enough. When Percy heard about this, he wrote perhaps his most influential poem, though few have heard it today, The Mask of Anarchy. In a move you wouldn't expect from him, Percy called for the people to gather yet again in non-violent protest, saying that the men who cut you down have homes among you, where they will be shunned by friends, family, and community, and eventually they will see the error of their ways. I know that sounds stupid.
Unless they're really shitty.
I mean, yeah, unless there's a bunch of YouTube channels going about saying how they were in the right, you know? Now, I know this sounds stupid in 2024 America, but this has worked. and I'll get to the examples later. But when Percy sent this to his friend Lee Hunt for publication in the Examiner, he was like, dude, no, I still live in England. They'll come after me next if I fucking print this. And because of this, the poem wouldn't hit the streets for 10 years after Percy's death. On November 12th, 1819, Mary and Percy had their only surviving child, Percy Florence Shelley. But of course that wouldn't mean much to Percy. Around the same time as the birth of his son, a protege of his aunt's arrived in the city. You see, Sophia Stacey's parents had died when she was very young, and she was subsequently adopted by Percy's aunt, so not a cousin, and not weird if they bang.
God damn it, dude. Dude, the old times sucked.
Which is it is instantly what Percy tried to do. He just immediately tried to fuck this lady. He abandoned his wife and newborn son to hang out with this lady, and there's no evidence to even suggest Sophia and Percy had actually even met until this point. So you can't say he was excited to meet an old family friend. Either way, Sophia was the one to suggest, oh, you know what would be adorable? Give your kid's middle name as the city he was born in. So that's why the young Percy's middle name is Florence, which is something I'm sure Mary thought was super cool. So there's no evidence they fucked, which why would there be? But Percy still wrote a bunch of sonnets about Sophia Stacey, and the next year, Mary wrote a lengthy letter to her that I wasn't able to read online, but from what I understand, it's kind of a, hey, how you doing? That was thinly veiled as a stay the fuck away from my man. And yet, on the back of the pages of Mary's letter, Percy wrote more sonnets to her. Quote, the odor from the flower is gone, which like thy kisses breathed on me. The color from the flower is flown, which glowed of thee and only thee.
Please stay away from my piece of shit husband.
Well, I love it. She fucking wrote these letters out, and he was like, let me see these. Oh, good, there's space on the back. And he, like, wrote more.
Honey, please, I'm horny and I don't have any paper left. Oh, perfect.
It's like fucking commenting on a stripper's Instagram page or something, and he's just like, can I borrow $40? She's saying that she needs coffee. Jesus, dude. In early 1820, Percy starts getting letters from a former servant saying they know about Elena, the kid they abandoned in Naples, the fake child, if you will. Now, I don't know if they were suggesting Percy snatch the kid.
Real child, Jordan.
It's a real boy. Yeah, no. I don't know if they were suggesting Percy snatched the kid or they were illegitimate by some other means, but it didn't really matter. They were requesting a large sum of money the Shelleys just didn't have, which was an issue because the letter stipulated that they do something much worse than tell the newspapers about Elena or even the police. They were going to tell Percy's dad.
Better ask your dad for money.
Yeah, really. I don't want you to know why, but I need like $200,000.
It's really important that you don't know that.
Unfortunately, we don't really know the outcome of this. The incident itself was recorded, though the people closest to Percy said it never happened. Whether or not the story is true is unfortunately up for debate, but if it were true, it would seem to be the reason for Percy's next hallucination. Remember, he'd hallucinate all the time, but usually it was just like wisps of shadows or shit like that.
It's been a while since we did this, though.
Yeah, but whenever
since we discussed it,
well, he would have it all the time. But whenever he was in a high stress situation, is when the hallucinations would turn violent. And it was around this time of the supposed blackmail letter that Percy would have a full-on breakdown in broad daylight. According to Percy, he was in a post office in Pisa when suddenly some guy just walked in and started fucking throttling him while accusing him of all sorts of crimes. Just molester, you know.
Cousin fucker.
No, I tried.
No, I couldn't get it. It didn't happen. I wanted it so bad, and I couldn't get it.
I told her this happens all the time to men my age. It's okay. Yeah. Soon after this incident, the Shelleys learned of little Elena's death. So take that as you will. Somebody supposedly blackmailed them, saying they know about Elena. They couldn't pay. He hallucinates. All of a sudden, kid ends up dead. Take that as you will.
It's fucking weird.
It's coincidental, though, I think. I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone would give a fuck to go all the way out there and, like, kill a child. that has like nothing to do with this situation. Like they already said, "Well, tell your dad." I don't think that they need to go kill the kid either, you know, and then not tell the dad. It's weird. I don't know, but it is a weird situation, and honestly, we don't even know if it really happened, so it doesn't matter.
It could have been just him being.
It could just be Percy being fucking Percy.
I mean, like if he's having hallucinations about people breaking into his home and shaking him and yelling at him about stuff, we can.
Or in a post office, yeah.
We can
it's
just
on the table.
We can assume the dude also would like have a paranoid freak out about people ransoming him to not give away his secrets.
Could be, yeah. Which could be why the people closest to him said it didn't happen too. I mean, they're saying it.
That makes way more sense.
They're saying it to protect him, I'm sure, to some degree. But whether or not this whole situation is real, yeah, I don't know, dude. This dude leans towards schizophrenic.
Yes.
Anyway.
There he is. Jordan Rabel, MD. Is that what you call therapists or psychologists or whatever?
I don't know. They're two different things.
Are they MD or MD?
Yeah. Me. Occupational therapist. Here I am.
Or is it PhD? What do you...
LSD?
I don't know.
You want... Wait.
Jordan Rabel, LSD at your service.
Let's do PCP. All right, anyway. So this news, though, of Alina's death caused yet another rift between Percy and Mary. This we do know. And Claire just couldn't take any more of their shit. So she decided to live alone for the first time ever in her life. I think she's in her early 20s, maybe. Now, no matter how hard he tried, how hard it was for him, Percy Shelley just could not stop hanging around pretty girls. Because he'd gotten some fame over the last few years for his poetry, Percy was introduced to the governor of Pisa's 19-year-old daughter. Poor bastard had no idea what kind of person he was. He couldn't have. This daughter was actually living in a convent until she could find a suitable suitor through her dad. There's no way the dad would have let Percy through the doors if he knew.
You could put your daughter in storage until you thought...
Yep.
That is super gross. Oh, man.
She's got all the original stickers and everything. But Percy ended up seeing this girl quite a bit.
Yeah, we'll just put her here with all these women.
Yep. Oh, who's that guy? Oh, he's a famous poet. I've never heard anything bad about him. Let him through the fucking doors. Yeah,
you want to just put your daughter in a place full of a bunch of other women and you think that's going to make her pure when she gets out? What do you mean? Never mind, dude.
Isn't like a major portion of this religion just red wine? Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, dude, all right.
I don't know. They just formed the fucking Bengals and just started hanging out and cutting their hair short. I don't know what happened. Yeah. So anyway. But Percy, so he ends up seeing this girl quite a bit. However, when he learned her father had finally found her a suitor, Percy just stopped seeing her altogether. I don't know. Maybe the dad actually found out just what kind of guy he was. He wrote a poem about her that was a little predatory that said, "I fear thy kisses, gentle maiden. Thou needest not fear mine."
Fuck, dude.
Hang on. No, don't interrupt me. No, I want you to listen. I want you to look into my eyes as I say it.
Your fucking dog came over. I was enjoying petting her. You fucking break my...
I want you to say to my dog, "I fear thy kisses, gentle maiden. Thou needest not fear mine."
Good morning, my queen above 18.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. I love that guy.
The fuck, man.
And Percy wrote another one about the importance of free love and his idealization of a girl that he sees as quote-unquote imprisoned. The poem was called Epipsychidion, which is Greek for about a little soul. He thought the work was brilliant and sent it along to get published. But
about a little soul.
Yeah.
I want to fuck.
Yeah.
Gross.
I'm not going to say anything about it, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty...
My lawyer has advised me not to. Well, he thought the work was brilliant, sent it along to get published, but then quickly wrote a retraction letter saying they shouldn't. Otherwise, people would get the wrong idea and think the poem was about him, which it is.
Yeah.
It's a fucking idiot.
So is he... How old is he at this point?
Early 20s still.
He's still in his... Oh my
I mean, maybe
God.
mid-20s at most.
Okay, I mean, still a little fucking gross, but...
I mean, how terrible were you at this point, you know?
Not fucking teenagers terrible.
I mean... Yeah, that's true.
Come on, what do you No!
We've always been with ladies our own age.
Or older.
Or older, yeah. I would like to point that out. Actually, that's going in the trailer now. I hope you guys really enjoy it. Plus, we've always been with women our own age or older.
Hi, it's me and my buddy Caleb. And this is Jordan Rabel here. We're just letting all you guys know that all of our relationships have been age appropriate before we go on any further.
I'm gonna move.
But sometimes, due to the subject matter, we're talking about time periods where those massive age gaps going into those territories were super common. So we talk about it like it's a normal thing.
I would like to point out that I've never talked about the age of Taylor Swift or her reproduction cycle as others have on Twitter.
Whoa, what is that a thing?
Yeah, that's a fucking thing. Have you never heard that shit? Oh, I've got so much material to send you now. It's like a whole...
Whoa, you're following this?
No. They're just everywhere on the internet.
I thought you started working.
What?
Why are you following Taylor Swift's reproduction cycle online?
You know what, man? I'm going to move past all of this now. This doesn't even need to be here.
I mean, this is kind of in line with what we've been talking about.
Look, I'll tell you later.
You're not being a hypocrite right now. I feel like Taylor Swift's older than you, but I feel like you following her reproductive
God damn it.
expiration
okay, no, listen,
is a bit strange.
No. Listen, there was a whole bunch of tweets from alt-right incels that were like, now that she's hit fucking 30, her, like, egg count is, like, cut in half.
Okay, the expiration date?
Yeah,
on the women.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
the
expiration date. Yeah, as soon as they hit 14, it's like, ugh, not even fuckable anymore. It's like, God damn it. Anyway.
Well, what's the point?
Oh, my dog is worried. Look, you're not in danger.
Your dog's worried because you're digging yourself in a hole right now.
That's supposed to be me.
Wait, Taylor Swift's only 30 years old?
I don't know.
I thought she was like...
isn't the whole point of her album 1989, like the year she was born? So she's like got to be 34.
She's got to be 30-something.
Or 35. I don't know.
I thought she... Yeah.
I don't actually follow this. Well, fucking great, man.
Aren't people that are like...
Look at you talking yourself into a new editing point for me. God damn it.
I just thought that once people get that rich, they're just like fucking, they're like elves.
Young forever?
Yeah, I don't know. They just started injecting them with all kinds of crazy things, like... If they end up not being able to reproduce, they just fucking find a homeless lady and, like, put her organs in there. And
you can still have kids at, like, fucking 50. It's not advisable, but it's fucking fine.
It's fucking fine.
Jesus Christ. These clowns. Anyway, so one of Percy's crowning achievements came at the death of acquaintance and fellow poet John Keats in 1821. Percy wrote an elegy for him called Adonis, an elegy on the death of John Keats, author of Endymion, Hyperion, etc.
This sounds super gay.
It's a little gay. The poet is from the perspective of Shelley himself, as he calls upon muses and gods of Greek mythology, largely of which are gay, which were all subjects Keats focused on, to help raise Keats from the dead, but to no avail. Quote, "Lost echo sits amid the voiceless mountains."
Who fucking died? God damn it.
John Keats. He was a poet. He wrote about gods and stuff like that. He was very good. "Lost echo sits amid the voiceless mountains, and feeds her grief with his remembered lay, and will no more reply to winds or fountains, or amorous birds perched on the young green spray, or herdsman's horn, or bell at closing day, since she can mimic not his lips more dear than those for whose disdain she pined away. Into a shadow of all sounds, a drear murmur between their songs is all the woodmen hear." Adonis was a tremendous hit, and whereas Percy had fame among literary circles before, everyone knew John Keats, and this elegy was something that made everyone familiar with Percy Bysshe Shelley. Hell, the poem was so popular that Shelley's mention of a painter who was a mutual friend to both Keats and Shelley rose the artist in popularity as well, just because he was mentioned. That same year, Percy Shelley's old cousin Thomas Medwin shows up. He was the older cousin that Percy went to school with that stopped him from getting his ass kicked, at least until he transferred to another school. Well, Medwin introduces the Shelleys to another couple, named Jane and Edward Williams. Now, Ed and Percy got along great. They often took to the Italian seas, which made both of their wives extremely nervous because neither one of them knew how to actually pilot a fucking boat. But most important was Percy's absolute infatuation with Ed's wife, Jane. He had his flings, sure, but they meant nothing, baby. And yeah, he's been married twice already, one lost to a suicide and one slowly losing her mind, but I'm crazy about no one but you, darling. And maybe his infatuation with Jane ran so deep because we know for a fact that she didn't fuck him. But Percy still wrote her several poems. Like,
how does one know that for a fact? I mean, I'm not.
They wrote so fucking much about this shit, and like everyone involved just knew. Like, that's why possibly he was.
He didn't hit.
Yeah, well, and that's why they were like, why does he like her so much? Well, she's never let him hit it, and they're like, oh, that must be it. No, he wrote her several things though, like a poem called "The Serpent is Shut Out of Paradise," which is about cuckolding, and "With a Guitar to Jane." That's my favorite one. And her husband was fucking fine with this. Said it was nice to know his wife was an inspiration to such beautiful poetry.
And that's fucking...
Yeah,
that is some backhanded confidence.
Sometimes, if his poetry had a few too many innuendos, Percy wouldn't feel comfortable saying...
That's cool, man. She's not going to let you hit.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what it was. And in fact, if his poetry had a few too many innuendos, Percy wouldn't feel comfortable saying it in front of her husband. So he'd give the poem to Edward and have him read it to Jane like that wouldn't make it weird. And he'd be standing beside him the whole time. This was all while Mary was once again pregnant, by the way. Tell her about the serpent being shut out of Eden. My serpent cannot get its bitter fruit. Oh, that's good. It's sour, sour dew. A morning dew. This is good, Percy. This is good. Yeah. Thank you.
Damn, dude. Well, that's really interesting, man. Tell me more about how poetically you want to fuck my wife.
Well, it was soon after the Williams' arrival that Mary's sister Claire rejoined the crew, bringing sad news of her daughter's death. You see, after she managed to get Lord Byron to agree to take in their daughter, Byron immediately turned around and placed the kid in a convent, where she died of an illness at the age of 5. During Clara's stay with the Shelleys, Percy had to kind of act as a mediator between Claire and Lord Byron, as they still needed to bury their child, but neither one wanted to talk to one another. All this stress, once again, led to Percy getting a string of hallucinations. In April, the Shelleys, the Williams, and Claire...
Oh no, he's going into sicko mode!
all moved together to the Villa Magni on the shores of the Gulf of La Spezia. It sounds nice, but this was basically a boathouse on the coast. Sadly, Mary's latest pregnancy led to yet another miscarriage, her last, but this one was especially bad. Mary Shelley started bleeding out, and Percy managed to get her in a bathtub full of ice quick enough to get the bleeding to stop. The experience almost killed her. I almost feel like he's the kind of dude to be like, yeah, I saved your life, and you should remember that, Like, that just feels Percy to me.
It does.
The news sent by Percy. Dick.
Bitch.
Bitch shit.
Bitch. By Percy.
But just 2 days later, Percy wrote to a friend that there was no sympathy toward Mary, as at this point, all Percy wanted to do was be out on a boat with Jane Williams and a guitar, man. Literally, that's what he wrote. Jane Williams and a guitar, boat on the water. That's all I'm wanting, man. He also wrote a letter that same day asking a friend to send him cyanide. Now, we're not entirely sure why.
No, Percy, absolutely not. You cannot have any fucking cyanide.
We're not entirely sure why, but as nefarious as it seems, when I looked it up, they actually used cyanide for pest control, so maybe it was just that. I mean, they did live in a fucking boathouse. Soon after Mary's near-death experience, Percy had one of his worst breakdowns yet, where he woke up the entire villa screaming that he'd seen Edward and Jane Williams as zombies, and saw himself strangling Mary. The last poem...
Yeah, no, definitely you can't have any cyanide, dude. like, no.
Just one more hit of, let me smoke that fucking cyanide, brother. The last poem Percy would ever write ended up unfinished.
Wait, Jordan, what do you think cyanide is?
No, that was a joke. Yeah,
oh,
no,
okay.
I know it fucking kills you. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, yes.
Okay.
The last poem Percy would ever write ended up unfinished, called The Triumph of Life, which remains perhaps the most depressing one he'd ever written. It is just a long, rambling lament of an unhappy man. There's nothing poetic about it. It is just sad. So maybe that's why Percy did what an unhappy man in his late 20s would do. He bought a boat. He named it the Don Juan after an epic poem that Lord Byron was still working on, and on July 1st, 1822, he and Edward Williams took that bad boy out on the water. The purpose was to float 100 miles up from Livorno to Lerici. There they would stay a week to discuss with Lord Byron and Leigh Hunt an idea for a new magazine they wanted to collaborate on that would have been called The Liberal. Whereas separately they had contributed toward Leigh Hunt's Examiner, The Liberal would have allowed them to write as a collaboration without worry of being suppressed by the British government. After the meeting, as Edward and Percy made their way back home, the Don Juan became lost in a storm. Years later, Mary Shelley would blame their demise on the design of the boat, which had been custom built for Percy, but in reality, he and Edward overmasted and they were blown out to sea. They were two men who loved the idea of sailing, but never bothered to actually learn how to do it.
What the fuck is overmasted?
If you have too much, sail, then the wind is going to kick you up a little bit harder than you're intending, and it'll fucking get you out there. So that's what ended up happening to them. There was a large amount of wind happening, and they, instead of just putting down a little bit of mast, they put the whole mast down, and it fucking took their asses out to the middle of the ocean. And their little boat could not handle those waves.
So that was his design, though, if it was custom. So she's right.
Well, no. The mast, it can be raised and lowered to mast or but that Percy did that.
Yeah, but I think what she's saying is that my dumbass fucking rich kid husband designed this boat. So yeah, he died in it because he didn't know how to fucking sail.
No, her longer explanation on it that I didn't put in here. She's like, no, the dude who designed the boat doesn't know how to design boats. The dude who's been doing this forever didn't do it right.
God, fucking.
I know she kind of look. They're kids, man. They're
no, they're not kids. They're rich kids, okay, Jordan. Yeah, right. It's a very different fucking thing. All right. Of course we can handle this. Poor people made it. Why would I need to spend time on it? My parents, my ancestors did.
When Edward and Percy left home, they took an actual captain with them, one that could steer the boat. But on their return journey, they figured they'd be fine with an 18-year-old kid named Charles Vivian who, like them, had some sailing experience. And Charles fucking died too. 10 days after he departed Lerici, Percy's body would wash up on the shores of Viareggio, 50 miles from the Villa Magni, and about halfway from his starting point. A friend of his had to identify the body from his clothing alone, as well as a copy of John Keats's poem Lamia in his pocket, which he was known to carry with him. Percy and Ed were left buried in the sand until his friends could secure plans for a cremation. No idea if the boat boy Charles Vivian was awarded the same treatment or if he was even found. About a month later, on August 15th, Edward Williams was cremated with a wood fire there on the beach. And the next day, on August 16th, Percy was too, with just a few friends in attendance. Leigh Hunt wasn't able to leave his carriage out of grief, and Lord Byron left before the ceremony even started. I love him. My fucking favorite.
Lord Byron the fuck.
That shit's boring. I was told there was open bar. Fuck you guys. Percy's remains were gathered up, and his ashes were buried in the Protestant cemetery of Rome, which I'm sure pissed him off. Thomas Medwin, Percy's cousin, had heard about a schooner being lost at sea while he himself was still in Italy. Days later, he learned it held 2 Englishmen. Then, he'd heard their bodies had washed up on shore. Finally, the identity of the bodies was reported, and the news he'd heard about in broken Italian for the last month was found to be about his cousin. He rushed to the site of the cremation ceremony, but found that he was 2 hours too late to the party. He beat himself up over it for the rest of his life. Now, famously, Percy's friend Leigh Hunt, while he didn't observe the cremation ceremony itself, went down to the beach afterwards to find what he believed was Percy's heart among the ashes. Which could be true. Percy was sick from tuberculosis off and on over the course of his life, which could have calcified his heart. But there's also the possibility that what Leigh saw was Percy's liver, which would have shrunk in the fire and been much harder to burn. Either way, Leigh Hunt scooped up this unknown organ and carried it around in a jar as a keepsake of his friend. When Mary Shelley heard about this, however, she asked Leigh for the heart, as it was the only thing left of her husband. But Leigh said, "No, it's mine." Jane Williams, who also lost her husband, had to settle the dispute in which the heart was finally...
fuck, man?
They're all
This is
goth.
why people aren't present for fucking cremation, dude. Like, because they're gonna do weird shit like that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, that is your profession, and then some fucking creep coming in and being like, let me grab the fucking... No!
Yeah, exactly.
Stop it, dude. That's not sanitary. Like...
Yeah, no, the heart was finally handed over to Mary after some time, though. Which is fine, because Hunt also walked away with Percy's fucking jawbone.
You already got all the juice out of it.
Yeah, no, Hunt he had something of Percy's anyway. He had his fucking jawbone. So it's like, why do you need both? Like, you fucking... That's not even romantic. It's kind of romantic to have the heart.
Fucking gross,
like, it's
dude.
like, oh, I got the gray matter. Like, it's fucking weird. That jawbone now resides in a museum in Rome, by the way. Yeah, fuck yeah, you should, dude. You fucking take those bad boys. Don't ever forget them.
No, please! Let me get the cake!
He's got two cheeks. Can't we just split them? No! They will never be separated. Unless it's me.
I'm updating my will to be like, it was just going to be cremated, but now I need there to be like a cast made of my ass.
Oh, like a death mask, but for your butt.
Exactly. A cast made of my ass, and then if somebody can please just sculpt it.
Cast, but there's an extra S in it.
Thick.
Death cast.
Thick. Just thick Puerto Rican butt will live on forever. Someone will fucking dig it up one day and be like, wow, this is fantastic.
This was thick. Holy shit.
Oh my God.
Jane, by the way, ended up shacking up with none other than Thomas Jefferson Hogg, his old friend from college, and had several children with him. The boat, the Don Juan, was, as mentioned before, custom built and was actually pretty nice. So the boat captain that sailed with Shelley and Williams to Lerici later ended up buying what was left of it, fixed it up, and sailed it for many years before it sunk. But it
did sink.
Yeah, I think that was probably his oopsie too, though. You know what, man? You're giving me a lot of things here that are pro Percy, and frankly, I'm worried.
Pro Percy? What do you mean?
Yeah. Hey, man. I mean, it's not his fault. Maybe he wasn't such a dumbass anyway.
No,
you know?
I'm saying, but it did sink because it was his fucking custom boat.
I'm just saying. I mean, so was it his fault that he died?
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All I was saying with Mary's response there was like, yeah, she's saying it's like, you know, a bad product of the design why they died. And I'm like, yeah, he said it was a custom boat. That's his bad.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, yeah, maybe they lowered the mast too fucking quick and then fucking caught too much wind. But maybe he designed it in such a way where they could get that kind of power too quickly because he's a dipshit. Like,
you bought a Ferrari with your parents' money. Didn't you just get your license last week? Like, yeah.
I want a custom Ferrari with no ABS.
I don't know what that is.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, wait, I know. The Paul Walker thing. When Percy's death was... Sorry.
Dude, okay, we're not a Fast and Furious friend group here, so I'm sorry if we offended any of our 2 listeners there.
Look, I'm sorry, but the first movie was all about the race wars, and I thought that was maybe the greatest piece of Hollywood history there was. We gotta get him for the race wars. Yeah. Now, when Percy's death was announced in the English newspaper, The Courier, they said, quote, Shelley, the writer of some infidel poetry, has been drowned. Now he knows whether there is God or no. It's a little snide, you know?
It's
like
rough.
You didn't need to do that.
Yeah, come on, man. Like,
although Percy is today remembered as one of the most influential writers of the Romantic period, he was at the time, along with Lord Byron, described as writers of the Satanic school of writing.
Once again, just really glad I didn't learn about this guy earlier.
10 years after Percy's death, his cousin Thomas Medwin would publish his biography in 6 installments through various magazines. However, they lost credibility when it was revealed that he tried to blackmail Mary Shelley into paying him not to say any of the bad shit. So we're not entirely sure how much of his biography is true, because Mary ended up not paying him a cent, and he probably made some shit up to spite her. Instead, it was Percy's friend Thomas Hogg's biography that people tend to remember, even though it was never finished. Originally planned as a 4-volume set, only 2 came out in 1858 because of what seemed like Hogg's unfavorable sentiments towards Percy. His biography made him seem like a real asshole. But that's the thing, Hogg wasn't wrong about the facts. Percy was an asshole. In fact, it was Mary Shelley that requested Hogg write about her late husband, since he knew him best. Unfortunately, Mary Shelley died in 1851, 7 years before the project would be completed. But after her death, it was her 31-year-old son, Percy Florence Shelley, that asked Hogg to finish it. But Hogg's biography was not remiss to mention Percy's bad side, and even though the friends that knew him in life thought it was accurate, his son Florence did not, and told Hogg to stop. Although Florence barely knew his dad, he was 2 when his dad died, Percy Bysshe Shelley was quickly being regarded as a god of poetry, and Florence didn't want that title to flounder. Speaking of kids, Charles Bysshe Shelley, the son between Percy and Harriet Westbrook, and whose mother committed suicide 2 years after his birth, was adopted by unknown parents and died in 1826, aged 12. Ianthe, his daughter from Harriet, came to be known as Lady Shelley and stayed married to nobility and died aged 63 in 1876. While she was alive, Ianthe commissioned a marble sculpture of her late father, originally planned to be held at the Protestant cemetery where he's buried, but a friend of Shelley's requested it to be placed in Oxford, where he had been expelled. I guess to make it seem like he is a man of Oxford, as he wrote. Which you're fucking not. You never attended classes and your ass got out in less than a year. Fuck you. Anyway, Percy Florence Shelley, the one child that survived between Percy and Mary, was rich and didn't want to do anything, so he didn't. Sailed better than his father did and died in 1888 from old age.
Well, I mean, he just kind of sounds like, you know.
He didn't really get up to any...
Chip off the old block.
Honestly, he didn't seem like a bad dude. He was just like, I'm rich, I've seen what the world has to offer, and I don't want to be a part of it, so I'm just going to be quiet and die alone. It's like, cool. You know what? Good on you.
You know, man, cool.
You learned better than both your parents. That's good. I'm glad.
I mean, it'd be cool if you, like, you know, did something, but...
Nope.
Okay. like,
might be better if he didn't, too. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. Percy could have not done anything, too. Coulda, but he did.
What did he do, Jordan?
He wrote a bunch of poetry and philandered a whole bunch of things and stole a child once. Would have been better if he stayed at home rich, you know? Maybe it is better that Florence did nothing.
Yeah, no, that would have been...
Yeah.
Could just...
Chip off the old block, this child kidnapper, Florence Shelley. I don't know.
I don't even know how the fuck this happened. I just keep stealing children.
Children just accumulate around me.
Stealing children. I'm like somehow like $1 billion in debt, which is amazing because I was born a millionaire.
What's this new invention of yours? The van? Is that how it's pronounced? Yeah. I don't know. It just came to me in a dream.
A guy broke into my fucking house, shook me, and just started yelling "van."
Van. I don't know
what the fuck is that? Combustion engine?
God, just reminds me of, like, what was it? Like the first steam engine was actually invented 400 years prior to it being a big hit because one dude in Turkey made it just to spin donor. Like, you hear about that?
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, fucking hero.
You're like, yeah, dude, little bit on the kettle goes up. Fucking, 1 + 1, dude. Not that fucking hard. Give me some water. Let's go.
You make a good fucking kebab right now.
I'll just concentrate all the steam into a small point from a big-ass fucking pot of water, and I'm going to start moving some shit around. It's going to work.
I know that we're going to discover that there's, like, some ancient Chinese guy that, like, created, like a full-on fucking radiation reactor type of thing just to fucking cook rice faster, It's just going to be like...
Damn it.
No, I'm right.
Jordan.
You know what? You're right. It didn't have to be rice, and I went there, and I'm sorry.
God damn it. Do you realize... You just had the...
No, it wasn't a race thing. I don't know. My first thought was cooking rice.
It's a lot worse when you're not specific and then you just say Chinese guy. You know what I fucking mean? Because, like, I know that's
well,
not...
It didn't have to be a Turkish guy that made donor, but he did that too.
I know that's not what you meant. But when you just say Chinese guy, you're, like, lumped in with people who think everyone... that is Asian is Chinese.
Yeah, no, I getcha.
Just some Chinese guy making rice. Now you're going to edit it to just me saying that.
Look, at least let me say this much. It's because I was thinking about how I need to possibly make rice tonight, and I'm sorry. That was the first thing that came into my mind, and I don't know why I went to China in the first place. It was a random country.
Who are you making rice for, Jordan?
Huh?
Who are you making rice for?
It's for me.
Just you?
Yeah. I wanted to eat the leftover fucking torta.
Okay.
I just wanted some fucking rice and torta, man.
I don't know, man.
No, I get your point. I'm not cutting it out because I'm lazy, but
Dude, come on.
But I understand. Okay, man, a guy in Azerbaijan making salads. I don't know. Is that racist? I don't know.
Fucking probably not.
Could be. I don't know.
I haven't gone into the races enough to know about any generalizations from men from Azerbaijan.
All right, well, let's fucking finish this, all right? Now, The Mask of Anarchy, Shelley's response to the English government's massacre of its own people. You remember that? The dudes on horseback came and fucking cut people down because they were like, hey, maybe we should reform the voting age because right now it's just not a whole lot of dudes around. And they're like, fuck you. And then they just start killing people. Mm-hmm. Well, that was finally released in 1832, 10 years after his death.
I mean, it's the same time, though.
What?
I'm sorry, but like...
God damn it.
They're like, man, we got to lower the voting age because there's not enough fucking 17-year-old and up people. I'm like, I don't... Well, we need to open the voting up to children.
Well, that's the thing is like, no, I mean, here's the thing. They could have opened it up to women, which I don't think they were...
Oh, fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, I know. So it's like, I honestly... Hang on one second. Let me look this up.
Yeah.
When...
I forgot about that variable, so now I understand why there was a protest. It's like, maybe let us vote.
Women allowed to vote in the UK. Fucking 1916. So yeah, that could have been it. 1916, 1917, sometime around there. So
it's like, this is kind of necessary because there are no men.
They're all fucking dead. And the only people driving the vote are people who are already in positions of power. This feels like it could be fascism. You just left it up to the
dudes who weren't physically able to be drafted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What the fuck?
I think there should be more wheelchair accessible ramps. Fuck you, Jared.
Jared,
we need to reform.
Jared, I agree with you, but this is not the time.
All right, I'm just going to read this whole thing over. Now, The Mask of Anarchy. Shelley's response to the English government's massacre of its people was finally released in 1832, 10 years after his death, and has been used as a rallying cry ever since its publication. Mahatma Gandhi read it aloud to crowds of people, and it was quoted at both the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989 and the Egyptian Revolution in 2011.
Oh.
Yeah. The words, "we are many, they are few," and "like lions after slumber in unvanquishable number," have been used by human rights organizations around the world. Percy Shelley fucking made that.
God damn it.
Unfortunately, there have also been a lot of tyrants throughout history who have quoted Ozymandias as if it's meant to be a testament to their greatness, not realizing that it's about their assured destruction. Gaddafi even called himself Africa's King of Kings. Not really getting the point. That's like the wrong people that enjoy South Park, you know? Now, we're not sure exactly why Percy Bysshe Shelley actually became popular after his death. I mean, he had the talent, but his stuff was barely printed in his own day.
Well, I kind of get it, man.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like the work in itself sounds pretty good, actually, without the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. There's a lot of stuff like that, too, but why did he rise above the rest? And while Mary Shelley did release the bulk of his work after his passing, the sales were still minimal. Our best guess is that there have been plenty of poets who cited Shelley as an inspiration in the decades after his death, and since then, he's been considered by many as the king of romantic poetry, a title he still holds to this day. My sources today: Poems and Lyrics by Percy Bysshe Shelley, Peter Popper Press, 1934. You laughed about that last time. Don't.
Wait, no, poems about what?
Peter Popper Press. It's a good title for a company. Fuck you. On this day in 1816, 10th December, and the tragic death.
Popper Press.
On this day in 1816, 10th December, and the tragic death of Harriet Shelley by Anna Mercer, bars.ac.uk, December 10th, 2016. A newly discovered document on the case of Elena Adelaide Shelley by Donatella Sisti, Keats Shelley Journal, Volume 68, 2019, and Wikipedia.
Jordan! What the fuck, man?
What?
We're gonna spend 2 fucking episodes trashing a dude who is quoted by a bunch of fucking revolutionaries, and you're not gonna drop that until the fucking end?
Yes.
Like, we're only gonna dog on him the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he deserved it, clearly.
I mean, I feel like, you know, it's kind of like when you say, oh, George Washington was the first president, and it's like, oh, okay, how about you go through the beginning of his life first? Well, okay, so he was a slave owner.
It was just a
and he was
tree. Don't
really
worry about it. It was
terrible
just a tree and
general.
an axe. I don't want to hear.
And that was all fake, and he didn't really have wooden teeth and all this other shit. And anyway, and then he became a first president that wasn't very good, honestly. Yeah, it's kind of that. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, he's a poet in his own right. I had to do his own episodes.
What the? I thought he was just a creepy little goth kid.
Oh,
until this moment.
Yeah, good job.
fucking.
He inspired everybody after him.
Fucking dick. Now I understand why you didn't want to skip.
Yeah. Man, just wait until Lord Byron.
We're doing that?
Oh, fuck yeah. Lord Byron was a poet in his own right, and that'll complete our Shelley, saga. But that's not going to be for some time yet. I haven't even fucking started the research on that one.
So if we have 3 and it's going to complete it, that's a trilogy.
Yes. You still call it a saga.
No. Sagas are only for Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, fuck. No.
Bye-bye.